Alright, hey guys, Rich Trader here. Just wanted to go over a quick little um, kind of weekly recap slotted bias for the coming week. So let's hop right into it. We hop into the weekly chart on NQ to the left, ES to the right. You can see on the weekly chart we did come down into this weekly fair value gap, pushing further down on NQ, and then on ES we are kind of closing just precisely at that weekly FEG, right? You can see if you zoom in, perfectly filled it and then kind of bounced up just a bit before close on Friday. So let's hop in on the daily chart. On the daily chart, you can ignore kind of these other markups. I'll go over some of this later on. But on the daily chart, not a whole lot going on. Obviously, we do have a pretty bearish setup here, kind of looking for lower prices. In my opinion, we have a pretty obvious bearish SMT here, right? So we have NQ making a lower high, while ES did go ahead and make that higher high. So there's that bearish SMT. And then we have on Friday, we had this daily fair value gap come up into and get that rejection off of both on ES and NQ. Other than that, if you look back on the weekly chart, we are kind of right at this weekly order block, so that is something to keep an eye on. However, on the daily chart, 4-hour chart, these smaller time frames, it does look like we could be searching for lower prices. It's going to be hard to have like a super defined bias coming into this week, just because it is possible that we come in and blow through these that bullish order block and these fair value gaps down here. It's also possible that we come up and re-tap into this FVG here and then find lower prices. Another thing to keep in mind is we have this gap here that did not completely fill from Tuesday. So that's another thing we want to keep in mind both on ES and NQ. If we do see a bullish reversal this coming week, we could definitely see a target of that that gap there that never ended up filling. So higher time frames, that's kind of what I'm looking at. Really quickly, if we go back into the weekly chart, it's important to kind of note where we are. So on NQ, there's nothing really going back there. So if you go into NQ here, you can see we did take off this buy side liquidity on the NQ one exclamation point chart. So that's just kind of using all the different contracts and kind of putting it into one. And then here on ES chart, we do have this volume bounce kind of completely filled, right? And then we also had this, technically this fair value gap. And I was talking about last week how in order for me to be bearish / neutral to look for this rejection here, I needed to see this weekly close below the fair value gap, right? I didn't want to see this thing close above. This wick above is not a problem. However, because we didn't close above it, that kind of signaled to me that shorts were in play if we got the setup on a smaller time frame. Okay, cool. So, obviously, 4-hour chart, rejection here, bearish, right? Taking liquidity to the downside, right? Daily chart, we did a lot of selling off coming into the, just kind of, algorithm was very much just kind of showing bearish order flow, right? We'd come up into inefficiencies, come into short-term, intermittent buys and liquidities, and just continue to sell off of those areas. So let's go into some of these setups on last week's price action. Let's see here. hop into some smaller time frames. There we go. 15. Let's go to the 5-minute chart. So let's come back to Monday's right here. Monday. Back here, my fault. So below shorter block here, bounced off of it, came 1-minute chart. We can see this bearish fair value gap, turtle soup here, and then this was something I was looking at. You can see this acts as an inversion. After we take buy side, inversion there, and you can go ahead and get a really clean entry in the 1-minute time frame here. So this was pretty much, in my opinion, the first very good setup of the day. Obviously there was a possibility of taking some sort of long entry after this sell side was taken in the mornings. Here's the ICT silver bullet setup. Purge a sell side, comes in, and then you can try to enter off of something like this in here. A little bit choppy though, not the greatest price action, so that's why this right here was the best setup in my opinion for Monday. Come in, take it all the way down to sell side, right? Scaling on the way down, you can take profits in here, and then this sell side, and then I'm fairly certain eventually, right? Eventually we do come down and take off this sell side. Just a lot of chop throughout the rest of the day in targeting this sell side down here, right? So definitely would have been difficult to hold for the push into the low a day. However, it did come, and you can see here we continue to rip to find lower prices, come and take liquidity. Rip to find lower prices, come to take liquidity, right? Rip to find lower prices, come to take liquidity. Rip to find lower prices, and objective was finally complete.